So we're back once again, and here we are on the Game Haus house YouTube channel. If you followed anything recently in the past 7 days, on the channel you will notice that I talked with Josh, and he put on an event just this past week in December. He just put on an event this past week in December 7th and 8th at the Game Gym over in the DMV area. And I have him back with me. And the other video that you need to listen to as well is that I spend about a half an hour talking to somebody who is building an excellent esports program over at Stevenson University, and that is Tyler Price. And I have both of them with me again, and I felt it necessary to do a wrap up from the weekend where they went to a LAN center in the DMV area called a Tech Time, and they put on an event, and they invited kids down, and they had some competitive situations. They had parents there, and the reason that I'm doing this is that I think it's vitally important to tell the whole story here. And the story starts, it has a middle, it has an end, and just like all good stories, you want to know what happened to all the characters that were in the story. So I have Josh and Tyler back with me one more time, and they're going to talk about what went into planning Ignite, how it actually turned out, and then some of the things that have come after it. So Josh, thank you very much for coming back. So sort of give us a wrap up rundown of what happened this past weekend.
Sure. So we have been working all season. Our League of Legends and our Overwatch teams have been working all season, and we wanted to create for them a kind of like a travel event to go to where they could put their skills to the test and, kind of have an experience where, you've got to go somewhere and figure out how to compete at your best when you're not comfortable. So this past weekend, we had everybody come out and meet up at Tech Time, where we ran some 1v1 competitions, a couple team ones, and we cast it. And the whole idea was for these kids to come and just give it their best shot. And I was incredibly proud of all of them for rising to the occasion.
So that whole thought process is really interesting, because the way that you and I talked about that event was that the focus was on the partnership with Stevenson University, but then you added the piece to that of using it as a teaching tool for the kids to understand, hey, if you want to be a professional, you don't play at home all the time. You could go to Dallas, you could go to Los Angeles, you could go to Boston, you can go to Florida and compete in these events, and you'll be in a new area, in a new space. You'll be on a computer that you haven't used before. So that's an interesting thought process. So as far as the kids themselves, I mean, was there an adjustment period? Did you have some of them do very well and some of them get sort of over overwhelmed on things? I mean, for the kids that for the actual kids that came, I mean, how did everything turn out for them?
Yeah, it was interesting. The way that the day was broken out, because we knew that everything was going to be new to them, was that we were going to spend about an hour to an hour and a half when we first got there warming up. And then we'd take a break, we'd eat lunch, we'd talk about the afternoon and the competition, and then we'd get into the competition. And everybody did a really great job. If anything, our kids were really excited about being there and playing, that I think there was almost some overplaying, and that they were too warmed up to the point that when the competition came, some of them had been playing for 3-4 hours at that point already.
Wow.
And, it was definitely an interesting learning experience. One of the challenges I gave all the kids is to, start to figure out what you need to do for yourself to get ready to compete. And whether that's, I need to hop into a 1v1 and do this, and then I need to do that drill, and then I need to take a break and then do this and this, or, a completely different warm-up. Every kid is different. Every person is different. And so the challenge was to figure out what they needed to do to warm up. And so we definitely tested some of those limits, and I think found for the kids, what is my appropriate warm-up time? What do I want to do? How do I want to play? Do I want to play team games? Do I want to play just, training mode? And so that was kind of what we really tried to explore, and I think the kids did a fantastic job of it.
That is excellent. So now the other side of that was what so the other side of the whole event was the partnership with Stevenson University, and so you had Tyler there. So Tyler, as far as things on your end, I mean, what was it like being involved from the college side as well as doing some other things like a production and casting?
It was a lot of fun. I have some decent experience. I used to stream by myself for a while, about a year straight, and then doing this was a lot of fun just because I got to represent Stevenson a little bit, and the program that I built, and kind of gave me an opportunity to give back to some of the kids that are coming up through the system, and I wanted to let them have a good time. So it was a lot of fun, like putting together a lot of the graphics and running the production and stuff like that, just because it's the first time I would say that I've run any sort of tournament where I've had to kind of do all the production stuff and shoutcast at the same time. I think that was kind of the biggest challenge, was trying to control all the scenes and making sure that like everything looked right, and that like the names were changed on the nameplates, and then at the same time like trying to keep up conversation with shoutcasting and stuff like that. So it was definitely, I didn't get to leave my seat very much that day, but it was still a lot of fun.
Very nice. So, and then let's also keep in mind the I guess the third part of this, which is the parents. And one of the things I talked to both of you about on each time that we've spoken is how the parents of these kids feel about it, because they're not going to send their kids anywhere that they don't at least have an understanding of what's going on. And what you guys are doing is trying to put a face on what competitive gaming is, so that these parents these parents can send their 12, 13, 14-year-old kids to LAN centers and have a general idea of what's going to happen there, and what the atmosphere is going to be. So sort of talk about your interaction with the parents.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Okay, yeah. So with me, like I said earlier, I didn't get a whole lot of face-to-face time with parents directly, but what I will say is I did notice my parents were there watching my brother play, and I think for the first time my dad fully understood kind of the concept of what he was doing and what he was spending so much time playing Overwatch for, because he was in the break room watching him play, and I just remember my dad coming out of the break room like after my brother had won a match, and he kind of looked at me and smiled, and I could tell that he was just like had that same level of excitement as he would if he was watching, say, his favorite football player or his favorite football team, or whatever the case may be. It was kind of that same expression where he was kind of happy to see that, like, he was obviously rooting for my brother, and to see him win and to see it like on TV, more or less. Right. I think that's a big part of it, is for these older generations rather. They need to, in order for it to be put into perspective, they need to like see it on TV, and they need to see some production and some shoutcasting involved, even if it's like somebody like myself who isn't super trained or anything like that. But I think it was enough for at least my dad and my mom, for example, to kind of see it in a different light to where it makes more sense. So it doesn't look like they're just playing video games. It looks more like, wow, my son just went out there and he just won. Like he played well and he did what he needed to do. I don't fully understand what happened. I don't know what the abilities are. Or I don't know what character he played, but I know that he won. It says it on the screen. I hear the shoutcasters.
Right.
And I think those are the things that kind of, once you bundle that all together, you could almost say like that's kind of the face. You put the face to the sport,
Right.
and that's, I think, being able to do that on such a small scale, even on a small scale like that, is enough to, to change, at least change my dad's opinion of the whole thing.
Very nice. Very nice. So Josh, did you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was interesting because, we had this great, kind of group, and like Tyler's parents fit in one where, it's still trying to learn this world and understand and appreciate. And we had a couple other parents who, were part of our program who they totally dig it and understand what we're doing. And they are, paying for their kid to go to the game gym, and they're driving their kid an hour to the event and hanging out all day and then driving them an hour back. Like, the investment from our parents in our program was pretty amazing. And, they're the kind of parents who are going to, dress up and bring their kid to Comic-Con. We just have
Right.
awesome parents. And I think that's kind of like, it's really good and positive to have, both kinds of points of viewpoint present, so that, you can see both parents and have them talk to each other about the whole experience as well. Because that's another thing, is that we could talk to them a ton, but, to have another parent who buys in, talk
Yes.
to them about it.
Exactly.
has a ton.
So sort of talk about how that relationship evolves, because when you're a parent, you want your kid to be happy, you want them to be successful, and you want them to be safe at the same time. It's just one of the things about being a parent. So what is that conversation like for you guys? I mean, when you get a new parent and you're talking to them about the process, like, this is what your kid is doing, this is why they're doing it, here's how we'll support you in that. If you have questions and you don't want to talk to me, here's two or three other parents that are already directly involved. So sort of talk about that whole relationship there.
It's complex.
Right.
Parents are, a lot of parents come from different points of view. It's interesting. Tyler, do you have any thoughts? And I could jump off you. I mean, there's a couple different ways, but
Yeah, I think the thing is, at least for me, from the open houses I've been to where parents have come up and asked me questions about it, I think it's one of those things where, depending on how old your kid is, it's hard to say, if they're, if they want to be a basketball player or an esports player, like right off the bat. I think that kids have just an odd wealth of interest in a lot of things, because they're, just like anybody, you have high level of interest at the beginning until you hit your first obstacle. And then once you hit that first obstacle, you start to ask yourself like, oh, maybe I don't really like this. And then you move to the next thing. And it's hard to pick an age, or it's hard to, at least right now, define what that level of interest looks like, to where you can say, okay, my kid wants to play esports like competitively. Because for my brother, for example, he played or he was doing karate for a while. He wanted to play tennis and do all these other things, and he would kind of get into them at first, and he seemed very interested. But he would always drop it. Like, once he realized that he had like practice every day, and or when he realized he had to like, do a certain thing that he wasn't as into, it was like, oh, well, it's not as fun anymore. But with Overwatch, it's been, he just wants to play it all the time. And it's not because he's just addicted to, it's not just because he's addicted to video games, or it's not because he's addicted to video games. It's because he only wants to play Overwatch because he wants to get better, and he wants to like learn more skills, and he wants to play on a team, and he wants to have that experience.
Right.
And he's willing to go through the hardships, and he's willing to push through the obstacles of playing ranked queue and going up rank and then going down and then going back up. And he's willing to take on that challenge. Whereas, a kid who just plays video games just for fun would play everything in my mind. They might have a favorite game, but like they play games here and there and they just play them for fun and they don't really have any serious interest. Whereas someone like my brother or some of the other kids that were at Ignite, they take a game and that's what they play. They sit down, they practice, they learn new skills, and they challenge themselves, which is something I don't think, and that's kind of the thing you tell parents, right? Is when you start seeing your kids start to intentionally challenge themselves in a particular sport, whether it's gaming or any other sport or whatever, that's, I think, at the point where you start to say, okay, hey, maybe now it's my time to get involved.
Okay.
And then a parent really, in my opinion, honestly, parents should support whatever their kid's interested in and just try to learn as much about it, from their kids and also from, people like me and Josh and whatever, and take them to these different events and just see what it's about before making a judgment call. You know what I mean? Before cutting something out of their life because you didn't grow up with it and you're unfamiliar with it. Instead, educating yourself and learning from your kids, before making that decision. Especially if it's not affecting other things. Like if they're still doing well in school,
right?
They're not getting involved in anything that you wouldn't want them to get involved with. They're just playing video games, but like at a high level. I think the problem is parents are just clueless. They just don't know, and that's what scares them. The unknown is what's scary, and they see all these stories from the news about gaming and gamers, and the problem is it's not. It's news, right? It's supposed to attract attention. It's always supposed to be blown out of proportion. It's always dramatized. It's always supposed to scare you. And in reality, I think coming to an event like Ignite is the most wholesome experience because it's like, oh, well, this is it. This is what they were telling me to be scared of. Well, this is awesome. I like this.
So
why would I be afraid of that?
So okay. So then, all of that is great, and then you have the parent who just saw the Tyler Barris. That whole that swatting incident that happened last December, he gets 20 years in prison because he's a jerk and somebody died. Some innocent man dies because people like Tyler Barris are out there and they exist. So what do you say to a parent who says, "I read that article. I don't want my kid anywhere. I don't want them to be involved in that at all."
Honestly, it's one of those things, like, there's no answer to it.
Right.
People will believe what they choose to believe, and, those are things that I would say, they're just unfortunate events, and there's nothing we can really do to change that it happened, except for just trying to keep moving forward. And I think it's unfair to say that, gaming is bad because of one thing or this thing. Like, these sorts of tragedies and these sorts of unfortunate events happen in every activity and everything that we're interested in. And again, it all falls back to, in my opinion, the news just trying to get attention, trying to scare people to some degree, or just trying to grab their attention. It's not necessarily, I don't think they're trying to scare them. I think they're just trying to, again, dramatize it and make it interesting. And, it's being someone who's a gamer and speaking just out of personal opinion, I think it's just, there's, as most people would say, including myself, we will continue to do what we enjoy to do, and we'll try to make things safer where we can. But I don't think that's a problem at this level, especially for kids. If we don't, if parents learn to monitor their kids appropriately. So here's the thing: it's all about balance, right? So a parent, in my opinion, shouldn't just cut their kid off because they don't know about it, but at the same time, they still need to monitor. They still need to teach their kids proper manners, and there is something to be said that a kid that doesn't have much social interaction and just communicates through the internet, it's true that at least a little bit, that they kind of don't know what is okay to say and what's not okay to say. And in my experience, I've seen people just get angry, and I think frustration over the internet is probably one of the biggest plagues that we have, is because once when you're on the internet, you feel a little bit more you feel more safe than when you would if you were in person. And I think that events like Ignite are the events that remove that factor, because the chances and the likelihood that a kid or somebody's willing to be as aggressive or as angry as they would online is a lot lower when they're sitting right next to the person that might be triggering that reaction.
Right.
And I think we talked about that last time, and just overall, like, bad things happen no matter where you turn.
Yep.
It's only a matter of time until someone does it with something else, and
Right.
I don't think like I said, I really don't think that there's something to look out for. It's something to be read up on, but I don't think it should be something to freak out about. Panicking's never been a good solution to really end. So
Right, exactly. So, that all being said, I mean, let's not get wrapped up in the things that are bad, because those things are small in comparison to what you guys are doing. So, you had this great event. It was streamed on Twitch. Everybody had a great time. Questions were answered. So, Josh, moving forward now, your next steps are what? I mean, you take the momentum from this event, the positive vibes, the overall growing good feelings about this. So what's next for you?
So this was the culmination of our fall season. We have our Smash, which we're calling Flexmas. Our Smash competition is called Flex. And we've got a Smash competition on the 21st, and that wraps up our fall season. And the other exciting thing is that we have a date for Ignite 2, which is going to be June 8th. And we're just going to be riding right into the next season, into the spring season, and getting our members ready for Ignite 2.
Very nice, very nice. So, with the partnership that you've cultivated with Stevenson now, do you have other schools in the area that are paying attention?
We're interested in developing them. We've been reaching out to a number of schools. Our job is to just get a ton of like, different entities to come and support us so that we can support them in return. So, I think that now we're just, it continue the outreach, and hopefully people will want to be a part of what we're building and doing.
Very nice, very nice. So then between the end of your first season and the start of your next, are there any events going on, just sort of smaller things dealing with streamers and as far as being on social media and being online and things like that?
Tyler, you want to take that one, or is that to me?
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I apologize, Bill.
That's okay.
That?
No, sort of a general question to either one of you. Josh, you can answer this if you'd like. So you're finishing your first season here soon, and I know that you are spending time working with the kids on how to cultivate their experiences online, whether that's creating content, being on social media, being a streamer in general. So is there any sort of workshops or classes coming up for that?
Yes, definitely. We're working on putting together some streaming. We're definitely putting together a number of other opportunities that support our esports training. And, you might not be the best esports competitor, but that doesn't mean that there's not a place for you here. So it's really important to, offer a million different opportunities so people can have and figure out what they're really good at.
Yeah, I think at the collegiate level, it basically just branches off from that. Presumably kids would come from the game gym and come into a collegiate program like Stevenson's, and we would basically go off of what they learned in the game gym program and either enhance those skills or just provide them potentially, different opportunities, shoutcasting collegiate matches for us, or doing content on our players, or running our social media channels, things like that, and giving students opportunities to, become photographers too. And all of those are definitely things I've been pushing, because I recognize that, like Josh said, not everybody who wants to be involved in the esports scene is a gamer, or is not necessarily a high level player, let's say.
Right.
They may be more interested in photography or in social media, or just making really cool narratives, or writing stories, and those are things I think we already have those things at the collegiate level. We already have majors for journalism, and
Mm-hmm.
we already have photography and art and all these other things. And you know, we want to. My goal was to create the esports program at Stevenson to allow students that had those interests to still pursue their gaming interests on top of that, so that not only could they graduate with a degree in film and moving image, but they could also have a portfolio full of really awesome reels of different gaming events that they recorded, or lands, or matches, or player reactions, and all these different pieces of content that not only are video related, but they're videos of things that they're actually interested in. I think that's what students my age are challenged with, is they go to school and they pursue a major and don't necessarily always get the opportunity to build a portfolio around their major, but also with what they're interested in. It's usually either one or the other. Either you're building a portfolio for a class that has nothing to do with your interests because you just have to do it, or you're pursuing your interests but it doesn't apply to your major at all. So being able to bridge the gap between the two, I think, is what's important.
Yes, I completely agree. And if we're going to accept esports as just if we're going to accept esports on the same level as football, baseball, basketball, all of the extra things that those sports leagues create when it comes to journalism and video production and business management, those things have to be applied to esports just as the exact same way, whether you're talking talking on the production side, like you did for the stream. You need somebody to handle the lights. You need somebody who's not going to be in front of the camera to be a producer and to help with transitions and to make sure the timings are correct. You need somebody to do somebody to handle social media, staying on top of responses, creating blog posts. You need somebody who can create graphics. I've told dozens of people, and I've said it multiple times online, if you can create graphics or if you can edit videos, you will have a job in esports forever because people will pay you for that stuff. Make graphics, or you don't even have to compete, but the guys that do compete want graphics. They want their headers, they want their overlays,
Their hype videos,
exactly,
highlight reels.
Exactly. There's so much that esports brings to us, and I'm really grateful for the fact that you guys have taken time to talk to me, to tell me about what is going on. You guys are doing awesome work on the East Coast. I hope everybody knows that you're on the East Coast. We have this, I think there's this blind spot that anything outside of California and that has to do with esports doesn't really count or something, and that's 100% not true. There are great people in great areas, Atlanta, Dallas, you guys in the DMV. There's people that are in Colorado right now, in Denver, that I've talked to that are putting in excellent work. So guys, thank you very much for making time for me. Like I said, as we shut this down, is there anything that you want to promote on the way out?
None for me. I'm good.
I would say come check us out at thegamegym.com. Follow us on Twitter. It's Game Gym Esports, and then on Instagram and Facebook is the Game Gym. So hope to join the conversation, and we'd love to hear from you guys and your thoughts on our program and just working with kids and anything pretty much along those lines in general.
Awesome. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you continue to enjoy the content that we have here at the Game Haus, go ahead and share and like this stuff, and we'll talk to you soon.
If you liked that, hit the subscribe button for more interviews and other great sports and esports content. Make sure to also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on all the news from your favorite sports and esports players and teams. From our house to yours.